Chapter 66 Eccentric Rule. Sect leader Ma's generous attitude made it clear to Han Li that as long as any conditions he brought up were not excessive, the sect would most likely deliver it. With the sect's help, his anticipated objective could be easily reached. But then again, this kind of generous treatment was not often seen in the entire Seven Mysteries sect. It was obvious that the leaders of the sect were fully aware of the importance a highly talented medicinal god had for cultivators in Jianghu. As a result, Han Li did not hold back and asked that Godhand Valley would be handed over to be his personal residence. He claimed that he did not want outsiders to disturb him in the valley while he researched and studied the art of healing. This condition was not one that was naturally accepted by sect leader Ma. The sect leader probably wanted to rope in Han Li and unexpectedly took the initiative to offer Han Li a young and pretty maid to serve his daily needs. Han Li, suddenly faced with this unexpected bargaining chip, felt his heartbeat quicken, and just as he was about to tacitly agree, he calmed down and thought of all the secrets he was hiding. Feeling a bit distressed, Han Li rejected the offer. Han Li's action caused the sect leader Ma to show considerable admiration and to view him in a new light. He continued to compliment Han Li, saying that at such a young age, Han Li was quite handsome and that if sect leader Ma had a daughter, he would marry her to Han Li. Han Li didn't know whether to laugh or cry at these words because it wasn't that he rejected feminine charm but that he couldn't afford to at this moment. And just like this, the entire Godhand Valley became Han Li's private territory. Outsiders were not allowed to casually enter. Regarding any visitors, Han Li specifically placed a large bell at the entrance of the valley. It didn't matter who wanted to meet Han Li, they just needed to strike the bell, and Han Li would promptly exit the valley to meet them. This eccentric rule was written in bold characters next to the bell. Even a few of the middle to upper rank members could not avoid this rule. The reason why Han Li laid down this eccentric rule was to completely prevent any last possibility of the secret of his bottle from leaking out. As long as no one broke into the mountain valley, Han Li could guarantee the bottle's heaven-defying properties from being known by a second party. At first, this rule was not an issue for the lower-ranked disciples, but it caused many high-ranking members to be very dissatisfied. They believed Han Li viewed himself too highly, not knowing how high the sky was or how deep the earth was. Not even Dr. Mo was this haughty, so how could Han Li, a trifling disciple who just finished his apprenticeship, dare to act so presumptuously? But after Han Li saved someone who suffered a heavy and life-threatening wound from the brink of death and aided in his recovery, all signs of complaint disappeared without a trace, and no one brought up the eccentric rule again. No one wanted to offend someone who may save their lives countless times like the medicinal god over a small and trivial matter. They naturally believed that forcing visitors to ring a bell to meet him was a strange habit unique to temperamental medicinal gods. The following days passed one by one, and even the sect elders gradually followed Han Li's rule. When they wanted to ask for medical help, they would send someone to respectfully sound the big bell to call for Han Li. Godhand Valley's eccentric rule gradually turned Han Li into a legend of sorts in the Seven Mysteries sects. What was ridiculous was that he was not even ranked in the sect. He didn't have a high-ranking position, nor did he hold any position of power. He was still a low-ranking disciple. But then again, who has seen such a popular disciple in the sect? Even the sect elders who came to visit him would address him as Dr. Han. Not many people dared to directly address Han Li by his name. Of course, this did not apply to Li Fei, also known to Han Li as senior disciple Li. Li Fei still maintained his cold and detached disposition in front of others, but every time he saw Han Li, he became sloppy and carefree. His treatment of Han Li had not been changed by his new identity as a medicinal god, unlike Fatty Wang and the other disciples who had drifted apart and became more respectful. There were no traces of politeness whenever Li Fei addressed Han Li by his name. This made Han Li feel a bit of gratitude. He still wasn't accustomed to living a life of solitude. Just thinking about Li Fei's expression whenever he laughed, Han Li couldn't help but think of another individual's face. Recently, he unexpectedly met someone else who had ridden the same carriage as Han Li up the mountain several years ago. Now an inner sect member of the 7 Supreme Division, Wu Yan had contracted a strange illness that was untreatable by all of the doctors who were sent to treat him, tormenting him to no ends. In the end, he had no choice but to use sect leader Ma's name to ask for Han Li's help to cure his illness. Wu Yan's memory was quite good, and when he met the famous Dr. Han, he recognized with a single glance that he was one of the children who came on the same carriage as him. Han Li. His face revealed a shocked look that was still fresh in Han Li's memory to this day. That year, Wu Yan's attitude towards Han Li was not exceptionally good, even a bit vile. Seeing Wu Yan's awkward appearance, Han Li truly felt like laughing. Normally, he would not treat Wu Yan's illness because of their shared history, but in order to not damage his reputation as a medicinal god, he even increased the amount of prescribed medicine so that Wu Yan would recover from his illness in 2 short days. During the period of recovery, however, the large amount of prescribed medicine made Wu Yan suffer even more pain. This was Han Li's way of lightly reprimanding the previously vile-tempered youth. Han Li was not as magnanimous as he appeared to be. He wouldn't forget a single grudge. Just like this, Han Li slowly replaced Dr. Mo's position on the mountain and was even considered to be 1 tier above Dr. Mo. In God Hand Valley, Han Li would take out the small bottle, put it inside an empty space within the valley, and allowed the mysterious green liquid to form every 7 to 8 days. With the mysterious green liquid, he would hasten the growth of rare and ancient herbs, which he would refine into medicine with the utmost care. Only a small portion of these herbs were used on those who visited him to seek medical aid. The majority of the herbs were taken and used for Han Li's personal use. He would use them to cultivate and refine Yuan Qi and to push forward in his cultivation of the eternal spring arts. Han Li gently shifted the body within the late Dr. Mo's chair to find a more comfortable position. Although the chair he sat on was indeed Dr. Mo's armchair, this place was not Dr. Mo's house but rather Han Li's residence. He had taken all the items he thought would be useful from Dr. Mo's house and, with no trace of politeness, claimed them as his own, moving them into his own residence. As for the position in which Han Li was sitting, even if someone saw his disrespectful actions, they would not do anything because in their eyes, the current Han Li's worth far exceeded that of Dr. Mo's. People were surprisingly very realistic and practical. Dr. Mo's residence was far bigger than Han Li's, so moving into the bigger house would have been more suitable. Unfortunately, Han Li thought that living there was a bit weird. After all, he was the main cause of Dr. Mo's death. Brazenly living in the house of someone he killed with his own hand would cause his heart to become heavy and cold. As a result, living in his own residence was far more reassuring and comfortable to Han Li. However, whenever he thought of Dr. Mo, Han Li would naturally be unable to forget the sad fact that he was still under the control of a dead person. In the period of time after Dr. Mo's death, he carefully examined his own body, both internally and externally, countless times. He was still unable to refine the thread of cold yin qi hidden within his dantian. Han Li tried to use the pure spirit powder and other famous poison-dispelling methods, but sadly none of them were effective. It seemed like the long journey he would have to take in 1 year's time was unavoidable. He calls it his own doghouse.